Engine's getting back together. Looking good. Starter spinning it over. Starting to come down with something. Anyways, it's time to try to get this thing to fire up and run. I want to put the intake and exhaust manifold back on, but I do have a crack right here. So I'm going to, you can see it comes all the way down to there. It's not a horrible crack. If it ain't broke, I'm going to try to fix it anyway. It's one of my greatest failings. So I got the grinder, I got the oxyacetylene torch, I've got some brazing rod, I got some flux coated brazing rod here. I'm going to give it a shot. Hopefully I don't make it anything any worse. Because, well, there's not a lot of these manifolds kicking around, but wish me luck. I want to open this up so I can get that rod, because that crack goes almost all the way through. I want to open it up enough to be able to get the flux rod down in there. All right, I've got it ground out. I don't see the crack anymore. All right, good from far, but far from good. I'll have to grind that down, file that down to make sure I get a nice flush mounting surface. I'm actually pretty happy with that part of it. This backside I'll have to grind in a little bit. It got away from me there. I'll have to grind off that excess. But my hope and desire is that this is going to be better than what I had before. Yep, that'll seal up. Guaranteed. A little bit of rust over here on this end. I'll hit it with a flat disc, or actually this is a stripping disc to strip that rust off. We'll be able to slap this on and one step closer to firing that trap. Alright, new exhaust manifold gaskets. Yeah. Rebuilt exhaust manifold. And oh wait, same old hardware. Most of these aren't too bad to get to, but this last one right here in the middle, which is probably the one I should have snugged up first. You can see what I've got, oh, what, a 1/6 or so of a turn. It takes a minute. bit by bit, but my time is done here. Got to go spend the rest of the evening with my kid, to go spend the rest of the evening with my family, put my kids to bed. So we'll keep going at it. I'm happy I got the manifold on, secured down, carburetor's in place. Still need to attach the throttle linkage. So where are we at? I got to attach the throttle linkage. I need to attach some fuel and spark. That's about it, and we'll be able to crank this thing over and try to get her to bark off. Maybe this weekend. We'll keep going. If I can get this cat to... I've never been a cat person, but they're growing on me. Get out of here, cat. Go on. All right, guys. Moment of truth. Well, not quite. But just another step in the process. I tossed the fuel tank back on here. I've got a new fuel filter on, hooked up to the carburetor. Let's dump just a little bit of gasoline down in here. Oh, not spill it over my new paint. That's all right. Not going to be the last time, I guarantee. I don't want a whole lot of gas in here because this is going to come back off. So just a gallon or so. Yep. All right, so we have fuel in the fuel filter. I went through the carburetor, made sure that it was rebuilt. I think we're ready. So right now I've just got my battery here. Got a battery charger on it. Starter wire, ignition wire. So I got my ignition, goes through a ballast resistor. I verified that I have spark. We're not going to let it run for very long. Not going to let it run for very long at all. I just want to crank this over, see if we can get it to bark off. We should be, our timing should be good. I got a set of gauges here. The only one that's hooked up right now is the oil pressure gauge. I want to make sure that we build oil pressure if we do get it fired up. Throttle is at about... If anything goes wrong, I'll just disconnect my coil wire. Let's see what happens. We're not building oil pressure. Fired right up, it sounds great. Where's my oil pressure? Maybe I didn't give it long enough. That should have been long enough to build oil pressure. We will have to review. And of course it's already starting to heat up because I don't have any coolant. But for now, we're done for the day. It barks off, it fires up. If we don't have oil pressure, well, maybe it's my oil pump. It just hasn't primed yet. We'll work on that. But for now, I'm calling this a success. I'm going to disconnect all of my redneck apparatus here. Yep. I'll even go ahead and disconnect my battery cable. And I'll shut off my charger because the timer doesn't work anymore. That's a win. That barked right off. That sounded good. Spilled my tools all over the barn floor. Bunch of oil came running out, and I got gas coming out of the carb. What I'm saying is, just as I expected, everything's great. Give me a minute to clean up. I'll dump this right back in the can, and I'll have to readjust the float on that valve or on that carburetor. Clean up my mess. We're good to go. Here's my oil pump right here. Pickup tube and everything. I've got to pull this cotter pin out and there's a cup underneath there that holds the spring for the pressure relief valve. So we'll pull that cotter pin out and we'll stick a couple of washers up underneath there to preload that spring. I'm thinking I have nothing to go on, right? It's going to be a guess. So I'm going to have to throw in some washers, put the oil pan back on, and see what happens. And if it's not enough, I'll have to drop the oil pan again and redo it. If it's too much, same thing, I'll have to drop the oil pan again. So less yapping, more zapping. Let's just get to work. There we go. We got a cup and the spring. And now we have to decide how many washers to put up in there. There's the pressure relief valve is still up in there. Let's buy. Went and bought basically the smallest ones I could find. Let's see. So I've got some size 8 flats. Those look about right. Okay, so I just put 5 washers in. So we'll try that. That's about 2/3 full in there. So you saw me drop the oil pan on this thing once, add some shims to the pressure relief valve spring, and button it back up, increase the oil pressure to what, 16 psi, maybe 18. I'd have to look on the video. I wasn't quite happy with that. I dropped it again. I let the stack the same, and I gave it a really good calibrated stretch on that spring to get to the repeatable proper oil pressure. I got it up to 25 psi, and I was pretty happy with that. And then I started thinking, well, what's the actual spec? And so I went into my manual here. So I have my INT shop service manual, and in paragraph 62 and 63, we're talking about the oil pump and relief valve. And here we're talking about the model 21, Colt 23. It says oil pressure 10 to 20 psi. It doesn't have anything here under the 33 through the 44 as far as that oil pressure goes. I have to assume that because there's no qualifier, that it's the same across the model years. That's the assumption I'm going with. Realistically, I'm pretty happy with what we have. So it took multiple times of pulling that oil pan off, messing with the pressure with the pump. But let's see what happens here. Kick the, let's get a good view. Try to find the best view, hold on. All right, keys on, chokes on. Let's fire this thing up. PSI. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm happy with that oil pressure. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with that oil pressure. That is period correct in practice. So I just wanted to update with what's going on with the latest. I'm happy with that. We're good to go on the next step of this process. So as far as this barn refresh is concerned, I'm happy with how this engine is performing right now. Little things to do to get it all the way correct, but we have oil pressure, it fires right up, it idles nicely. I seem to have pretty good RPM. I don't have a tack on it. The proof of the pudding will be in the plowing. when we hook the load up to this and actually get it out in the field. But for now, I'm excited. This is another major step forward for us on this tractor. It's pretty obvious, I hope by now, that I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But I do it anyway. Well, I'll do something. Even if you don't know what it is. You'll figure it out. Yeah. Sometimes it costs you a little bit. You have to redo work often. It's worth it. Get out and do something new, guys. I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.